This week's episode of This Is Only a Test is brought to you by Stitcher Premium. Stitcher Premium gets you completely ad-free episodes of hundreds of shows like Comedy Bang Bang, WTF with Mark Maron, and How Did This Get Made? You also get 21,000 hours of exclusive content like new exclusive originals like Marvel's Wolverine. They're launching every week on Stitcher Premium for their members. If you love podcasts, check it out or you'll be missing out. When you listen to ad-free episodes in Stitcher Premium, your favorite podcasters also get paid. Help support your favorite shows and join Stitcher Premium today. For a free month of listening, go to stitcherpremium.com and use the promo code TEST.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, May 17th, 2018. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com. Whoa.
Laurel.
All right. How's everyone doing?
We're doing good.
What does it mean?
Oh, my goodness.
We'll get to that later.
Whoa.
It'll be so interesting to hear what you heard.
Oh, my God. I've lost the power.
Okay.
Whoa. Hey, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. I'm Norm, joined by Jeremy Williams.
Greetings, salutations.
And Kishore Hari.
Hello.
We are 3 days away from Maker Faire 2018, so that's the thing we're most excited by. But we're going to go to our top story this week. Let's kick off with that. Let's do it.
Top story this week.
What'd you hear, Jeremy?
Laurel, definitely. What's the question?
The question is, what did you hear?
So this is the first time Jeremy heard this. Somehow he fell off the face of the internet the last couple days.
Yep.
Just yesterday. It happened yesterday.
Oh, yeah. We're recording this only a day after it happened. It just feels like
I feel like it's
time is elongated.
everyone wants to find the next dress.
What are you guys talking about?
The next blue dress, gold dress.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
somewhere around like 40% of people hear Yanny.
Shut up.
No.
Some-
I don't think it's really Yanny. It's more like Yanny.
Yeah, it's not.
Yanny.
It's not quite.
Yanny.
And so today there's a bevy of articles that every sound researcher in the greater world has been called to explain this feat.
You want to get in on the new dress.
You don't think this is just everyone being punked, that some people are pretending to hear Yanni?
This
So
one's a little bit different.
I
yeah.
definitely thought that was the case
Yeah.
when this started trending on the internet. And of course, BuzzFeed had the first big article about it. 11 million people have listened to this sound clip, which you can find on Twitter. When I first listened to it, the first dozen times I listened to it, I heard something that sounded like nothing. Because the way it was presented to me was...
What, you had your computer on mute?
No.
What's
It didn't
going
sound
on?
neither of those. The way it was presented to me was which of these it wasn't which of these words you hear. It was what do you hear?
Yeah.
And so when it was played for me, it sounded like hear me.
That's much better.
Hear me.
What I see here is what do you hear, and it gives you the two
yeah,
options.
you don't want the two options.
No.
You want the two options afterward. I think by looking at the letters and hearing them in your head, you already are assigning the sound effects. So I heard something that really sounded like near me. And so I'm like, and then when presented with those two options, like, oh, that sounds closer to Yanni. And so I was on Yanni for a good half hour, and now I can't hear anything but Laurel.
Mm.
And
I crossed back and forth a couple times yesterday.
I did that as well. It feels like the Laurel part of it, in the brief moment I could hear both at the same time. The Laurel part happens later than the It starts with a Yanny and then ends with the Laurel.
All right, let's explain what we know about it so far. So this waveform is, first of all, it's very noisy. It's not a high quality audio clip, and that's important. We'll come back to that in a second. But there are two sort of almost tracks in this. Like if you eliminate the low frequencies, people tend to hear Yanni at the higher frequencies, and they tend to hear Laurel at the lower frequencies. And so there's this weird way that Y's and L's are composite sounds. And so some scientists have posited that what's happening is we're hearing the composite sound, and depending on your sensitivity in the different region, you'll hear the different sounds. But because those sounds are composite, they sort of blend together. That's one explanation. The other one that I buy into a little bit more, because the audio is sort of messed up, we don't really hear enough information to construct what we hear. And so seeing the choices forces an expectation, and then we're hearing it more.
Sucks.
Deeper analysis of the waveform looks like the Laurel construction is much more persistent than the Yanny one in terms of like how much is there. So the Yanny is more of an artifact, and it's actually saying Laurel if we got a clean audio clip. That's the perception. But no one's gotten the actual clean audio clip by the time we've heard
Does it
this.
matter which device you listen on? We're listening on headphones right now. I was listening on iPhone speaker, and I heard Laurel more when I put the phone closer to me. And when the phone was further away and it's broadcast to the room at large, I heard Yanny.
People have reported distance, quality of the system they're listening to. So when I listen to on my desktop system, which has a nicer sound card in it and a nicer headphone, I heard it a little differently than when I heard it through my phone. But really, the only thing that I could do to force it to change is when I focused on one of the words and really concentrated, I was able to affect a switch over.
So you have to concentrate. Ooh.
Does it bother you guys that there's not a universal truth here?
No, I mean, the reason there's no universal truth is because the audio track's crappy.
My green,
Wait,
not your green.
You want to do an experiment?
I just think it's an interesting demonstration of the fact that we don't perceive the world the same way. And that probably ripples through everything from the way that we taste things to politics.
This is true. The world is totally
Thanks,
an illusion.
9th grade. It's like a philosophy student,
Yeah,
Jeremy Williams.
I'll take it.
He did just posit the world as a simulation right there. I want you to click that YouTube link that's in below that. And when you're listening to this, first, this is from a theme song from a kid's TV show. I want you to tell me what you hear. Jeremy, don't look at the screen. And I'm going to tell you to pause it after.
Wait, this one right here? On this? Oh, this one. Right on.
Okay, pause it. What is it saying?
Bam, 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 bam,
I'm
bam.
going to go with normal on this one. It's bam.
Okay.
Let's play it again. Hold on.
So
hold on. Wait.
think about it. It comes from the show Bill Nye the Science Guy. Okay, play it again.
Bill.
Ooh, Bill.
Okay. Now picture a garbage pail. Hit it again. Can you hear pail?
Yeah.
All right. Now here's where it gets weird.
Oh, I like this. Well, you got to set this up for the listeners too. Slow it down a little bit. Use
What?
your presentation.
No.
You got high marks the way you kick that off, but you're going by real fast right now.
So, I mean, the video that we're watching actually has images that flash on the screen.
Ah, okay.
And so initially it showed pictures of different bills, like Bill Clinton, Bill Cosby, like a check, a bill, if you will, a bill on Capitol Hill. By seeing those images, people will interpret it as Bill. And then slowly the images change over. It first goes over to Christian Bale, and you can hear Bale. And then it transitions to
A bale of hay?
yeah, a bale of hay is there. And then it transitions to a garbage pail,
Oh.
and you can hear that. But
Bail
here's the
bondsman?
one. I'm going to give you one more to listen for.
All right.
You'd like me to hit play now?
Just 1 second. Okay, think of mayonnaise. Think of mayo.
Pale. Pale.
Can you hear, like, if you
Mayo.
look at the pictures of mayo that end up on the screen, you can eventually hear them saying mayo, 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 mayo.
Wow.
It shows just how subjective our listening experience is.
See, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, you're right.
I like it. I also think that it's very important if you're going to do this, if you're going to blow the minds of your friends, presentation is very important. If you have a friend, not one of the 11 million people who have heard the Yanny Laurel sound clip, don't show them the words. Just play the sound for them first, and then show them the words. If you're going to show them this Bam, Bill, Pale, Mayo clip, do what Kishore did. Slow down a little bit.
Thanks for the presentation critique.
Here we are.
Presentation's very important.
Oh, we should go back and talk about Maker Faire.
Yes,
because we skipped
that's
over that.
the legit biggest news this week. It's the week of Maker Faire, Bay Area World Maker Faire in San Mateo. We'll be there Saturday and Sunday. Hopefully, if you're meeting a lot of makers, seeing a lot of projects. Every year, the fair brings some big showcase projects from all around the world. Last year, it was the art group from France, I believe, who brought their giant walking ant. And this year, it is the prosthesis from Vancouver, I believe. This is something I've seen at CES before, and they're the same group that made the snake that Will rode at Maker Faire, gosh, 4, 5, 6 years ago, and also the Mondo spider. But this is not a spider; it's not a snake. It's a giant racing robot.
Oh,
Yeah. And the robot is stabilized somehow so that a human can be in it as it races along. So it's almost like the human is in a gyro stabilized area. I haven't seen any video of it moving. Have you seen?
There's a YouTube video of it, and it is hustling. If you go to prosthesismechracing.com, the Eat Art Foundation, actually, we did an interview with him. Let me see. When was this? This was, Jonathan Tippett is the guy's name. Back in 2013, I chatted with him. He was working on this robot, and he went from Mondo Spider to he had the CAD designs back then, and it looks almost exactly like that. But I think back in 2013 they had one leg built, and now he has the full machine built. Yeah, super exciting.
I wonder how they're going to have it run, because Maker Faire, obviously there's 1 million people at it, so I'm curious what kind of track.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to run.
well, they,
So
have they have that part of the blacktop where they have the mech that had didn't Simone's chopping mech end up there?
Yeah, Megabots.
Yeah.
We're there.
I want to believe that it's going to hustle and move around the fair, and there's definitely, I think, the space for it for sure. I think because of safety reasons, they're not going to have it run. It's my gut feeling.
I'm still really excited to check it out, fully built. One of the things I'm looking forward to is kind of a small project. The foundation I work at, that I've been on the advisory board for, has been supporting something called micro museums. These are little 6 foot tall, human-sized mini museums that are fully fabricated by this couple out of Brooklyn. And they did one on mollusks, and they will place them in libraries or take them around to different locations. They're really well designed and built and constructed. They're a lot of fun.
You mean they're like doll houses with very small exhibits inside of them?
Yeah, I mean, except it's as tall as you. So it's bigger than a typical dollhouse. But they have all these exhibits at different heights, and some things that you can touch and some that are much more tech related. So they had a hologram of a mollusk that you could interact with. Wow. And it's just beautiful to look at. I love it's sort of understated. And I believe they're going to come and show how they put these things together, because they're scaling them out to go to a lot of different
they
libraries
fold
and
up
publications.
into a travel case or something.
Not quite, but they do fit together as a jigsaw puzzle.
Oh, this is not. I think that's a super cool idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. But when you said mini museum, I thought you were talking about those tiny. Do you remember that Kickstarter project in Lucite, the mini desktop museum? Have you seen this, Jeremy? This is, I thought it was a really neat idea. They're rare specimens that are in desktop size, in this, I think they have 16 of them in each, and they're floating items, and each item is a rare piece of something.
Actual things.
Actual real things.
Encased.
They bought chunks of it and split it into hundreds of pieces and had additions.
Cool.
They have a new one that's, I think, appropriately Apollo themed, which includes some Apollo 11 command module foil.
Oh, wow.
An SR-71 Blackbird fragment. All right. Yeah. A piece of a megalodon tooth.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not bad.
Yeah. Neat.
I'm also going to be there at Maker Faire. I'm only going to be there Sunday, it looks like. I'm moderating a conversation with Clifford Johnson, who's a astronomer, astrophysicist, about how he uses graphic novels to explain some big concept in astrophysics. Norm, are you doing?
Yes, I'm moderating a panel on Sunday as well, 11 a.m. on the DIY content creator stage. It's about cosplayers and cosplaying. And some of our friends have tested, contributors have tested will be there. Bill Duran is going to be there, so very excited for him to come down.
I believe he's judging the cosplay prop making contest.
Yes. Laura Komp is going to be there as well. And then our friends Kit and Steve, who are cosplayers from LA, they're also going to be there. So very excited.
Are you going to cosplay, Norm?
No, I'm going to cosplay.
I haven't looked at the weather.
Yeah, exactly. That's an important thing. I don't expect any rain, but it's always about how hot it is in San Mateo.
And Adam's doing his Sunday sermon, per usual.
Yes, that's on Sunday as well at noon.
How many years ago did you do the papercraft heads?
Oh gosh. That might have been also 2013, 2014,
4 years
2014.
ago.
Yeah, 4 or 5, eh?
Yeah,
That was cosplay.
I guess. Yeah,
For a moment, you cosplayed as Will.
that's true.
Oh, were
That's
you
true.
guys in each other's heads?
For a moment.
For just for a moment. Yeah, 2014, May 2014. Yeah, that was fun.
Oh, and one other thing we should mention that we missed last week. Simone's TED Talk came out last Wednesday when we were recording, and so we didn't quite catch it on air. It's really hilarious and wonderful and kind of subversive for TED, which is why I enjoyed it.
That was the word that Adam used to describe her when she came on board and tested, was subversive. That's a perfect word.
I think in the best way, too. Obviously, we wish Simone the best as she's going through what she's going through right now. I think the TED Talk and a lot of stuff on her channel points you to ways you can stay in touch and support her during this time.
Awesome. Let's talk about some pop culture news. Whew, we got a bunch of big movies coming out this week. We haven't seen any of them, but we're incredibly envious because other people we know have seen them. I'm talking about Deadpool 2 and Solo. Reviews for both these movies come out. Deadpool 2 is out this week and Solo comes out next weekend. What a bold move by Disney to say, we own you so much, Fox, that we're going to try to eat into Deadpool 2's second week releases. Which one are you guys more excited for?
I actually think Deadpool 2. I've gone in and out on Solo so many times. I don't know how I feel. When I saw the first teaser, I was like, this looks terrible. Then when I saw the actual trailer, I was like, okay, I'm back in. Now I feel like they're going to... I had heard somewhere that 70% of the film was comprised of reshoots by Ron Howard, which just scares the heck out of me. So I'm kind of back out. My expectations are super low on that.
Really? Because there were reshoots? The dragon lady, what's her name from Game of Thrones? She said that
Emilia Clarke.
she loved the fact that there were reshoots. I mean, you take that for what it is. Who knows?
I mean, we
Maybe
talked to
she's
the
just saying
writers. Remember, I think a lot of people forget that the writers were the writers of Empire Strikes Back. It was Lawrence. I'm sure I get this right. It is written by Jonathan Kazan, Lawrence Kazan. That was right. Lawrence Kazan
Very good.
and his son Jonathan were the ones who initiated the project and wrote it together. And in interviews, they've said, yes, they of course lament that the two directors, original directors, Chris Miller, Phil Lord, departed on terms that we still don't fully understand yet.
Creative differences, Norm.
Yes, of course. But that, their influence is still felt in the film. And despite the fact that they were rewrites, that is part of the creative process oftentimes for movies. And they think the movie is better for it. But that's also the company line, ahead of when the movie comes out.
Rogue One went through crazy reshoots too. And
It's true. It came out
I
good.
thought that turned out great.
I don't know. I'm expecting one of those like groan-worthy Tarkin moments in this movie.
Haven't they learned that lesson?
I don't know if it'll be CG, but it'll be something where they'll just like shoehorn something in that doesn't need to be there, or they'll get too cute. Like there'll be some Harrison Ford cameo that's not necessary, or something like that.
It's surprising to me that the premiere already happened, right? A full week, over a week before the release of the film.
I was surprised by that too.
So does that mean, does that tell you that instills a lot of confidence or shows that Disney is confident in the film. The fact to have a premiere and have all this buzz about the film the same week that the biggest grossing rated R movie has its big follow-up sequel, in which reviews for that say it's better than the original.
I think you gotta have your premiere at some point. I mean, it's only a week early, maybe. That's not a big deal.
So it also tells you that maybe there aren't any spoilers. There are no big Rogue One style plot reveals in this that could get spoiled, because I haven't had didn't have like the Russo brothers before Infinity War come out and say get to the theater as soon as possible, avoid spoilers. People aren't saying get to the theater as soon as possible, avoid Solo spoilers. Not a spoiler. They survive.
Yeah.
They make it to the next film. So
I still think there's probably some stuff in there that's spoilerific that they don't want you to hear
Of course
about.
there is.
Deadpool, I have expectations that it'll be a Deadpool movie that'll be crude and crass, and some jokes will work and some jokes won't, and that's what Deadpool is. And so that's why I kind of think I'll have a better time at that movie.
Fox was known, Fox Studios, 20th Century Fox, and they were holding the rights to the mutants, right? They've been known to cram every manner of mutant, an obscure character from comics, into their films, in all the X-Men films and all the spin-offs, just because they have the rights to them, but not necessarily doing those characters justice. When you look at X-Men, and you had, who are some of the ones, like Juggernaut, right? Or
Kitty Pryde.
But even like in X-Men Origins, right? The first appearance of Deadpool, they thought it was fan service, but they really didn't do the fans any service. The feeling is that with Deadpool 2, they crammed a lot of mutants. You got Terry Crews as Bedlam, you got Domino, you got Shatterstar, right? Like these classic 90s era mutants.
Is the one who's Lucky a real comic book mutant?
Yeah.
Well, there are two. In the comics, there are two characters who are lucky. There's Domino and there's Longshot. And in the movie is Domino. And that is her power.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, well, Longshot's a gambler, and so he's lucky. And then it's weird because Shatterstar, who's also in the movie, is actually the son of Longshot, I believe.
We're getting into weird territory with these
But
mutants, though.
my point
because this
is that
X Factor mutants. They're a weird group of people.
and X-Force. And my point is that I think with with Deadpool 2, the consensus is that the Fox actually did these mutants some justice.
Okay.
Yeah.
At least the way that fans of comics in the 1990s remember them.
I'm probably not going to see this till next week still.
Yeah, it's a busy weekend.
Yeah. I haven't even seen the first one yet.
Whoa!
What?
I know. I plan to before seeing this one, so I've got a few days.
Don't watch it with your son.
Got a couple days.
Don't watch it.
That's good advice.
It's not.
Also,
it's
don't
not for kids.
watch the one that's like on FX. That's all edited. You
Yeah.
need the true Deadpool.
Is there one that's like TV?
Yeah, it was on.
sanctioned?
Yeah.
No kidding. All right.
Yeah. We have lots of sad news this week with the passings of several influential people. Margot Kidder passed away.
Lois Lane.
Not the first Lois Lane, but the one that a lot of us grew up with the Christopher Reeve Superman films. And
Well, who was the first Lois Lane?
I think she's still alive. I'm gonna say from the TV serials.
I don't remember those. I never.
Was that in like the 50s too? Like something like that, right?
I'm gonna have to get the names of some of these actresses.
No, Margot Kidder was always my first Lois Lane.
Yeah, for most of us, absolutely. I'm sorry. Noelle Neal was the first Lois Lane, and she had passed already in the past couple of years. And then also Tom Wolfe, journalist and writer of The Right Stuff, author of The Right Stuff, passed just 2 days ago. Yeah.
I didn't realize how influential he was to so many journalists that I follow. I mean, I read Bonfire of the Vanities and The Right Stuff. I love that movie. That movie was super influential to me as a kid. But R.I.P.
I think a lot of people see him as like Hunter S. The way that people see Hunter S. Thompson in terms of someone who was a journalist who also wrote with a certain style that influenced how a lot of people write today. So it's a good time to revisit the works of those people who are no longer with us. Something that's still with us and we're getting a lot more of, for better or worse, Rick and Morty.
Isn't this great news?
Yeah, why do you mean for better or worse?
For better or worse, because it's the show that I love, but may not have the best fans.
Yeah, that's about right. Their fans tend to act difficultly.
This is an
but
enormous order.
Yeah, 70 eps is a lot.
So is that for real? Is that a legit thing? That 70 episodes, or is that just a joke? Like I don't know when any network has ever signed a show for that many episodes in advance. That's multiple seasons.
Yeah,
many seasons. Or is that an in-joke within the show?
It fill out a decade worth of stuff.
Right, especially the pace that the quality they strive for, the pace they release these shows. They're not going to get these out in 5 years. This is going to be, like you said, a decade.
There's been 3
of content.
seasons, and they've each had 10 episodes, except for season 1 had 11.
So 7 more years, and maybe more than a year between each season. Mm-hmm. That's a huge endeavor.
Why break? If you got the bill, if you got the money, crank them out.
I know the show there's a lot to explore in the show. I just can't see 70 hopefully the show evolves. Hopefully the characters evolve as well, and it won't be the same thing over and over again.
I'm happy with any number of eps. I don't expect them to make it all the way to 70, but I'd be happy with 30 or 40 more or 50. I don't care. This is great news.
You can get burned creatively just by doing that. I mean, there are a lot of really talented writers on that, and I've been rewatching some of the first seasons, and the characters, like the voices, have changed for sure in terms of performances. The writing has become more focused. There's a lot more heartfelt elements to the show that's well mixed with the deep sci-fi elements. And so I think they understand what it is about their show that people love, and I hope they spin toward the more positive aspects. A show that is just going to be in its first season in the coming years, and next year, hopefully, we're super excited by, is on Netflix, and it's a horror and anthology show by Guillermo del Toro.
Yeah, it's called 10 After Midnight. Actually, it's called Guillermo del Toro Presents 10 After Midnight. I assume that this is probably coming off the heels of the success of his animated series on Netflix called Troll Hunters.
Yeah, but that's a serialized animated show.
But it's been well received, and I think it's done really well on Netflix. So they're probably just taking the relationship to the next logical level.
Anthologies are very in right now. I mean, I guess you had the horror anthology show American Horror Story, but that was an anthology show season to season. Every season was a different theme in a convoluted shared universe. This sounds like it's more in the vein of Tales from the Crypt, Twilight Zone maybe, and there is a Twilight Zone that's going to come back. I guess that's CBS All Access, right, with Jordan Peele, and so you have obviously with success of Black Mirror, even the Philip K. Dick Electric Dream series, anthology shows are very in. You can get actors to just pop in for 1 hour, and if you're a fan of horror and creature horror, you can look forward to GDT's next jam. I just put on Hellboy Golden Army, which is on Netflix, last night, and that movie holds up so well. Well. Highly recommended. What's this? Got some news with Stan Lee?
Stan Lee just filed $1 billion, that's a B, $1 billion lawsuit against a company that's based in Hong Kong, POW Entertainment, that he said was trying to steal his likeness and kind of subvert his control over his own name and image. And this seems to be like another in the series of just strange behind the scenes activities going on with Stan Lee and his camp. Because $1 billion, that's a lot of dollars.
Yep.
And it was the statement from Stan's lawyers was pretty terse around this. I don't know what the backstory is about what the agreement was between this, but they allege that this company tried to sign a deal that was fraudulent in nature and tried to take advantage of Stan Lee to sign over a portion of his naming rights.
This is just so sad. Like, the last thing you want to be doing when you're 94 years old is embroiled in litigation. Right.
Exactly. Especially over your legacy.
Yeah. Oh, I feel so bad. Okay. We're also feeling bad because it's TV cancellation and renewal season right now We got a bunch of TV shows canceled. If you're fans of Lucifer, sorry, show's going to be gone from Fox. If you're a fan of The Expanse on Sci-Fi, that's also canceled.
We're fighting this.
If you're a fan of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, thankfully that show, which was canceled by Fox, picked up by NBC, which I could not imagine a more appropriate home for that show.
And picked up largely, it's assumed it was largely because of so much outpouring of support on social media.
Do you actually think that played a role? Because it was the next day it got picked up. That stuff takes paperwork.
No, I think
it takes negotiations.
No, I think I'm going to go with Kishore here. I think business can happen fast when they see lightning striking. And obviously, the Lonely Island crew was a big part of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right? And they have good friends with NBC, being a part of SNL. So probably someone's called Lorne Michaels and said, "Let's make this happen." And I think it's a really great fit.
I mean, the cast has been crediting Mark Hamill, of all people, to elevating their situation. Like, he said it was one of his favorite shows.
GDT?
One of only a couple of people. Yeah, so there's a lot of famous people that came out and said, this is, I can't believe this is.
It always boils down to, if 10 million people came out in support of this show, why didn't they watch the show? Right? Why weren't the ratings there?
Well, I don't know if people really knew about it.
And I think the best thing to come out of this, and the thing that NBC seized upon, is the awareness of the show now. Now, people who may not have watched it their friends saw these famous people they trust, vouching for the show, and it's going to give the show a new life. And hopefully they're seeing spikes of the rewatches on Fox.
This usually doesn't end well, though.
The clips I watched were damn funny.
Oh, it's a hilarious show. But this doesn't usually end well. Like Community going to Yahoo, that ended really poorly. Scrubs switch networks, that ended poorly. Like
Buffy switch networks.
Yeah, like there's a lot of this that doesn't go well, but I'm hoping that most of the cast will stay intact. And Expanse is a little bit different. Even though it's not rated as highly as other shows that are much worse on that network, the Sci-Fi doesn't have the streaming rights to the show that airs on its own network. It goes somewhere else. So they are not getting like the full piece of the pie.
Because it's fully funded by Alcon.
Exactly. And so like it ends up on, I think it's on Amazon Prime is where the seasons go. I can't recall. But it's essentially like without that piece of the pie, I don't think the economics work. And that's an expensive show.
Yeah, maybe Amazon should pick it up.
I mean, it's one of the few shows that have killed off Adam.
Yeah, I know. It's true.
In response to Brooklyn Nine-Nine, somebody posted a meme of Willy Wonka leaning on his hand saying, "Firefly fans be like, tell me about your canceled show after 5 seasons."
Well, that's how us Expanse fans feel right now.
If you're fans of other genre shows that did get picked up, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. got renewed for a shortened 6th season, which blows my mind. I know seasons of shows today's age are much different than back in the 90s, but Star Trek Next Generation only got 7 seasons, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s already going to make it to its 6th. Now, the big difference between like a 8-episode season and a 24-episode, 26-episode season. It's a lot of different, a lot of content there. But I'm glad that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. went this long, and they have announced that the final season of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will premiere after the release of Infinity War Part 2 or whatever that movie is named. So it will address the repercussions of that as
this
opposed
is so
to
weird
filling in the middle.
This is weird to me because this whole season has felt like a final season, like a goodbye. I have no idea why they're getting another season.
I really don't like that. I really don't like how like showrunners have to write series finales, things that they would thought to be series finales, because they don't know when the show's gonna end. Like the best thing that ever happened to Lost was knowing that they would stop it after that 5th season.
After watching that 5th season, having it end was also the right choice.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
And even Gotham got renewed. So they're going to go one more season, and you're going to see that kid become Batman, maybe? Weird, maybe? Yeah. I haven't watched that show, really. One last bit of TV show news. You guys following Westworld?
No. Holding out till
I'm holding out, too.
All right. I will just say, this past week's episode...
Oh, this was the one that got you?
Was probably the best episode of the series so far.
Hot diggity.
And the preview for next week's
of
episode.
The series, not just
series.
not of the season, of the series.
Had so many Lost vibes in a good way. And this coming Sunday's episode may be even better than that.
Have there
likely be even better than that.
Have there been any player piano moments?
Oh, good question.
Yes, of course.
Yes.
What do you mean player piano moments?
Well, there was that one with the Rolling Stones song in season 1 that was phenomenal.
There's I'm without spoiling it, there have been moments in that vein that for fans of that moment, you'll enjoy what they did.
I can't wait. I just can't handle the wait between each week. So I wait. I'd put it all in one bag.
It's fun to talk about.
And
That's why. And I got no one to talk to.
Norm's having a reverie right now.
Hey, I got something in my mail yesterday. It said that a new Lego set was out, and it's based on a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Is that exciting to you guys?
They've done a couple like classic theme park style kits sets in the past. They've done a carousel,
Have they?
like a merry-go-round.
No.
And this roller coaster looks intense. It's expensive. It's like $380. I don't know exactly how many pieces, but it's a working roller coaster.
When you say working, I'm thinking kid-powered, where somebody pushes the roller coaster along the track. You suppose that's the case?
You know, there's a video that to promote it where it starts with that.
No.
But then it goes automated.
I mean, is it an actual roller coaster?
Is it
like
actual
gravity
roller coaster?
Wow.
It's pulled up.
And then it rides the rails.
Yep.
Holy cow.
Yeah. It's available for, I think, Lego VIP members right now, and it's going to be out to the public in just a few weeks.
Good for them.
4,100 pieces.
So what is it usually? Like $1
10
a piece?
cents. 10 cents. It's $1 a piece. 10 cents a piece.
So it's like a $400 kit.
But it's $380, so it's actually
it's a steal.
It's a steal. Yeah.
What a steal.
The one thing I don't like about the design of this is the ground plates, or just the flat green ground plates, which I think are a little boring. So it's maybe you could say it's ripe for building on top of and adding some of your own terrain on top of that roller coaster. But the logo that says coaster on it, have you seen this, Jeremy?
Yeah. I mean, I got the mailer.
The logo is awesome. It's a classic like Coney Island style.
Oh, and
logo.
that's made out of Lego?
And it's made out of Lego.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that.
Did your Lego Black Card not get you some advanced notification on this?
That's only for Star Wars stuff.
Oh.
So we've talked about HQ a couple times on this show. I guess it qualifies as pop culture because it's in the section in the show notes here. But I noticed recently that they are allowing a new feature. Well, they've already allowed you to add friends, but I don't know how soon. Maybe starting now, sometime in the near future, you'll be able to see what your friends vote on while the game plays. Now,
Wait. Within those 10 seconds?
Yes.
You will. So you can be a contrarian. You know, my friends are stupid, and I will choose the thing they didn't choose. Or is it by poll? Like just
I don't know.
In aggregate?
I think it's fascinating.
It pops up their like faces.
Isn't it going to that? Is that? Oh, you've seen it work?
No, they showed screenshots of it.
Oh, okay.
Of what it'll look like. It'll pop
so
up.
you can
the
always
faces,
you can
like
follow
a
the
bar
lead
graph.
of the person you think is the smartest of your friends.
What is this going to do? Isn't this going to break the game? Aren't there going to be so many people sharing in the awards now?
Well, they want people to play together. They know people are playing together already.
Because that almost assures a much greater chance of victory.
And you're right. That's why people play together. But then the more people play together, the more people play, period. So they want it to be a communal thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they want people to stick around
Yeah.
after you've lost. So if you have some semblance of what your friends are doing, and even if you're knocked out, you can see what your friends are doing, then you're going to have this longer watch time.
It always struck me, though, that part of the benefit of playing with friends was that if no one knew the answer, you could divide and conquer.
That's the smart way. I don't know if people actually... That takes a lot of in-the-moment coordination.
So you got to have that ability, but I'm saying that is one of the benefits. Because
This
then
takes away all the fun of the game.
that way, if
what
you
you're
have
talking about.
enough people, one is guaranteed to make it through.
You're gaming the game now.
Okay, I don't see the problem here.
What is it, 10 questions?
It's 12?
12 questions? 12 to the fourth power?
Math is hard.
It's a lot of possibilities.
But in this case, you can't tell. You can't tell. Like, do all my friends know the answer? Are we supposed to be dividing? Who knows?
Right. Well, that's why you gotta be in the same room.
Yeah. Then this feature is useless.
Yeah. There's no way to game the system. You gotta take the enjoyment of playing the game, not necessarily winning the game. Just the enjoyment of at that set time,
Yeah.
noon or 6 p.m. every day, you and your family or friends all gather around and watch Scott make a fool of himself.
You guys still play?
I haven't played in a little while, in like a week or two.
I play like once every couple weeks.
Oh, we got one more thing.
Okay.
Neil is back with Cosmos Season 2. We got a trailer for it. Neil Tyson's going to take us to other worlds, is what.
But
this
all the
one's
footage
gonna-
is from the first season.
Yeah. I will say, like, I was filming something last year, and I was at JPL, and I ran into a Cosmos crew. So I know they're filming. There is actual film in the can.
That's good.
Somewhere. I'm really excited about this. Cosmos Season 1, even though it wasn't as good to me as the original Carl Sagan, it was amazing to see a show like that exist on Fox again.
This trailer opens with quotes of Carl Sagan speaking about the pale blue dot.
It's produced by his wife.
Yeah, they know what
So
they're doing. And
they got this.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. But it won't come out till 2019, so we got a little ways to go.
All right, on the tech news.
It says something above tech news. Am I ignoring that?
Whoa. What does it say above technology news? Let's go on the tech news. So right after we recover from Maker Faire, we're going to be rolling right into E3, Electronic Entertainment Expo.
Speak for yourself, brother. I'm going to the Golden State Pinball Festival.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm sure we'll hear about that in Tilt Warning.
Are either of you going to E3?
Yeah, I think we'll be there. We'll be there for a day and taking some meetings. Already have some stuff booked, mostly there for VR. And I don't know what there is to expect. It feels like it's a software year.
I've heard the buzz I've heard is that Microsoft is going to make a bigger play with a bunch of Xbox games, but I think they're trying to stem the tide of some of the reports on how poorly the Xbox One has been selling against the PS4.
That's right. Yeah. So who knows? And already there have been a few leaks on the Microsoft side. There's a leaked image of what looks to be a new Xbox controller, but it's one made for accessibility.
Oh, I thought it was turntables.
That's what it looks like. But it has a D-pad on the left with your Xbox button and the menu buttons, but on the right you have these giant A and B pads.
Huh.
Yeah. I think it's with LED light indicators. Interesting direction they would take with this. Yeah. But they would product develop something like this.
I would assume this is going to be demoed at E3 because it's not intuitive based on how the controller works, how to operate it.
Okay.
Nintendo, I'm sure they'll have a big showing with Switch. My expectation is that there are going to be a lot of games that you typically would see on the other consoles. Developers and publishers are realizing now that there's a huge market for Switch, and so while Bethesda has already jumped on board with Doom and Wolfenstein upcoming on Switch, maybe we'll see some other flagship AAA type games have a version that's going to be playable on Switch, which would be awesome for people who own that console.
And do you mean just ports or actual
I think ports.
content?
Yeah.
That's what I
ports.
think is coming too. Until we see Super Smash 5.
Right.
Well,
Right.
and the new, I don't know, it's not as big as Super Smash, but there's a new Mario Tennis game coming out next month that Nintendo will certainly have.
Well,
on
it
demo.
might mean that this is finally the Nintendo console where third-party games have success, and you're not buying it just to buy first-party Nintendo games.
Was that not true on the 3DS? Game Boys?
Most of those are still Nintendo games, I think.
Maybe would you play a AAA game like God of War on the Switch?
I'm looking forward to Wolfenstein on Switch, because just of the portability of it all.
All right. Should we talk about other game stuff too beyond E3? Sorry.
Well, I was gonna. I got a topic that satisfies both of these.
Oh,
yeah, let's hear it.
Portability and games. Valve is releasing their Steam Link software on iPhone next week.
Yeah. So
You know about this?
what does that mean? Steam Link was that hardware device that allowed you to stream your desktop PC games to your living room TV.
Yeah.
So how does that work on mobile devices?
One can assume that you'll be able to play your PC games on your phone using a Bluetooth gamepad or the Steam pad
over local Wi-Fi.
over local. They I think it said like it might even require 5 gigahertz, which sounds insane, but
Wow.
it's over local networks. You'll be able to play your games on your phone or iPad.
With the broad, the bigger bandwidth, you can have better streaming quality, but latency, I would imagine, is the biggest problem.
Yeah.
And on your phone, even a 720p stream, what Nvidia essentially did with the Tegra stuff, with the Shield, that was fine. You don't need
You're probably right. Maybe the article I read just meant it supported it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Are they making a controller to go with that when you mean a Bluetooth?
Well, they already make a controller, and it's meant to connect to PCs using a USB dongle. And just this week, they released a firmware update to that controller so that it now supports Bluetooth Low Energy.
Wait. It was just a firmware update? So
Heck,
anyone who owned that
it was
controller...
always there, Norm.
That is awesome, because
That is the most Valve thing ever, too.
the thing that sucks about like the Xbox controller is the first gen Xbox One controller was also dongle required, and the new Scorpio ones with the X and the S,
Yep.
those are the only ones with Bluetooth, and they're a different physical design.
I updated yesterday. It works great.
Oh,
Paired instantly to the phone.
Holy
Although
smokes.
it's not a made for iPhone device, so it won't just work with the iPhone games.
sure.
So it really is only for Steam Link.
But
Oh,
you
that's
get
too
the
bad.
you get the fat touchpads.
Yeah, and it will also, like Steam Link will also work with made for iPhone gamepad. So if you prefer the standard gamepad kind of layout, you can have that too.
Well, this is the way you can play your legit Fortnite or PUBG
Exactly. Yeah.
on your iPhone or iPad.
Freaking
maybe?
Overwatch, I guess, if you're
iPad
crazy.
makes more sense.
It
Right.
does. Bigger screen.
Right, bigger screen.
Yeah.
Removes the need to have a laptop or, iPad totally makes more sense. Other Microsoft news, non-game related. They seem to be releasing a new Surface Hub next year, and they've previewed it, and it looks kind of cool. And this is a conference room whiteboard replacement, a giant wall-mounted computer. The first one was like this 84-inch screen, essentially, that had collaborative touch on it. It was, I believe, Jeff Hahn's company. That was a big TED Talk years ago. They bought, and I guess some companies really like it. And there's this new one, and this one is a 50-inch 4K display with a rotating mount. And you can have up to 4 of these screens connected together to make a giant tiled touchscreen interface.
Cool.
We'll never work in a company that makes use of these, but I really want to use one. Like, this is the kind of thing that was perfect for science fiction and like Mission Impossible films.
They're classrooms.
Yeah. If they could
It's
afford,
pretty expensive for a classroom.
How much is it? Do you know?
I don't see a price.
Yeah.
But the Surface Hub 1 was thousands of dollars.
It's
Oh,
one-
yeah.
It's one of those if you have to ask, you can't afford it.
Surface Hub, the current one, is $10,000.
Oh.
And that's the 55-inch, and the 84-inch is $22,000. So Surface Hub 2 probably be in that range. And they want you to buy 4 of them.
Yeah. Microsoft can afford it.
Fair enough.
Apple probably can afford it, but they're not going to buy it.
No. Microsoft, on the more consumer-facing side, Bloomberg is reporting that Microsoft is going to potentially release a new Surface computer, tablet Surface next year. Not the Surface Pro or not the Surface Book or the Surface Laptop, but a straight-up Surface, and really have it aim for the under $400 price points to compete with the new iPads for education. They've done several attempts at a entry-level Surface. Of course, the Surface RT back when Windows 8 launched. And even more recently, a couple years ago, they had just the Surface 3, not the Surface Pro.
These are they a laptop or tablet kind of devices with
They still run Windows.
keyboards
right?
attached to them?
You can buy the keyboard attachments. The Surface 3 was the low energy x86 processor, which gave you a little bit better battery life. But the report from Bloomberg is that this new upcoming Surface tablet will have low battery life, just 4 hours or less, to save on weight and to make it more affordable. 20% lighter is what they said. I don't know if that's the right direction for them.
I
think if you're in the business, if you're in the market to buy something that you're going to use as a tablet, you probably shouldn't buy a Surface. You should probably buy an iPad. But if you're in the market to buy something that's a tablet form factor but is a real computer and you can actually do stuff on it, buy the Surface Pro, and buy it for $700, $800. I think that they're seeing that Apple has split the iPad category into a Pro line, which they can charge $800 to $1,000 for, and also a really competitive entry-level iPad line with a 9.7-inch iPad, the education one they launched in March, and they really want to hit students. I think that they really, really want to have students use it, but my fear is that it's going to be underpowered, and Windows just isn't optimized for the type of tablet use cases that iPads are, and it's going to be tough to compete in that segment.
Do you want to shop at Amazon Go?
I totally want to try it out.
So this is the shop in Seattle that is right next to Amazon's headquarters, I think, up there.
And it's a 7-Eleven style store, but there's no cashiers. It's grab and go.
You walk in, you grab your things, you put them in the bag, you walk out. And
you have to tap in. This isn't a steal and go.
No,
wait, this is the one that you could walk in, you tap in, and then it and it is not that.
Yes.
Oh, it is that. Okay, where the cameras
that.
track you and then know what
There's
you pick up.
Hundreds of sensors in this store. They watch everything. Like, I would love to see.
I want to go try it out.
What it sees.
How could you not want to try it out?
I would want to try it out. I mean, but everyone tried to break it.
Yeah.
And that's
part of technology. That's part of the fun of technology. Is trying to break it. What are its limits? Let's find it.
I don't want to intentionally go in and act
people
like
weren't doing that when Lucky's and Albertsons were incorporating technology like self-checkout counters. Like, these systems work because when there's a mutual trust.
No. There's a difference. With self-checkout, you follow the rules.
Yeah.
And
there's a contract.
If you follow the rules, then you have checked out properly. If you follow the rules in Amazon Go,
it can break.
Maybe you can break it and follow the rules.
No. I think people are actively trying to break it.
Well, they were trying to test it in that first iteration. I want to go for the experience of not having a cashier and see if I enjoy it as much as I think I will.
Well, you're going to get to, because they're opening Amazon Go stores in San Francisco and Chicago.
Is it just one?
I don't know. I mean,
near Union Square. That's the worst place.
There's only one.
It's not convenient for us.
This is not a practical thing. It is just a showpiece technology in Union Square.
What did you expect?
Ugh.
What do you want one on your block?
No, it's put in a place that actually a residential neighborhood where people would actually get to use it the way the technology is meant to be used, not a tourist attraction.
I think it actually should be more in like a business sector. So like people on lunch going through it, because that's the kind of food items they
Soma,
have.
Great.
The problem is you can't just go in. You have to wait in line because it can only handle so many people. Because the sensors will break. If
so
the
line isn't when you leave. The line's when you come in.
The
Do you
line
book a time?
is when you
Do
come
I
in.
book an appointment?
No, dude. There's no booking.
Call using Google Assistant. Hey, Google Assistant, book me an appointment to Amazon Go at 5 p.m. this Wednesday.
But the videos of people online using the one in Seattle.
All smiles.
No. The line is long. It's like 20 people long. And I've never seen it without that line. Like, all the videos have that.
That really defeats the point.
No, the line will go away after the novelty wears out.
I don't know, dude. It's Union Square.
Union Square again. Go back to what a terrible location to put this in.
I'm excited for it. You guys are crazy.
No. Don't get me wrong.
Try it out.
The technology, I think, is super interesting and super cool, and I think everyone in this room is excited to try it out. I just think if they want this to be the grocery store of the future and not just a tech demo, you got to put it in a practical location where people actually use it for the things they actually would go to a grocery store to buy, and not just so you can try out the tech demo.
You can't have the future without the beta test. You got to go through this process. It's going to be in Union Square, and then it will be in your neighborhood.
Speaking of beta test, you went to a beta store.
I did. Have you ever heard of these stores? It's called the Beta Store. They have one in Palo Alto, and they have one in San Francisco. It's in Hayes Valley. And this store is essentially, I called it a pop-up CES because that's what it really felt like. It's a brick and mortar location that houses essentially like experimental products and Kickstarter products.
Oh, wow.
It's like every smart product that you've wanted, that you've seen advertised for your home, and
or that TechCrunch has written about, that some of them may be successes, some of them may not, and maybe just novelties. They have a spot in the store. And so I walked in, the first thing that greeted me was Jibo.
Is this?
and you're like, get away from me.
Is this it? Is it b8ta.com?
I think it's BETA. It's beta, spelled beta.
I mean, I think that the website might be b8ta.com.
Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe. Anyway, the type I was intrigued. I saw products there that I would normally not have used, and it was really cool to see some products I had read about and had been interested in, and actually see the actual size of it. Like the light camera was there, that handheld camera with 16 lenses and sensors.
Scary looking camera.
And really much bigger than I thought it'd be. And using it, like a lot of that like ergonomics and user experience stuff, it was cool to be able to see those devices. And you can buy them all there.
Boosted board, one wheel.
They had a whole electric skateboard wall. They had the boosted board and one wheel hanging on the walls. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
people dressed in nice shirts walking around, and they could give you demos of devices.
So most of the stuff in the store tends to be pretty expensive because it's all, there's no discounts. You're paying essentially like full retail price.
Yeah.
Were you actually intrigued just as a place to try out new tech, or
just to try it out?
Yeah,
I wasn't there to buy anything.
No inclination to buy.
Yeah, every
anything.
product had like a tablet next to it that you can learn more about it or even buy it, but it's so wide ranging. That's what it felt a lot like CES. It just had like everything from home lighting to like baby, just like rockers.
It's like Hammacher Schlemmer or Sharper Image, but
Yeah,
the modern sharper image.
Exactly, and from a variety of companies. But you don't learn anything about the people who made those products. It's very product oriented. It's not about the story of like the R&D that went into it, or so if you go to the electric skateboard wall, like the thing that's going to catch your eye is going to be the one wheel because it looks the most striking, but you don't know anything about the history of that company, like all the things that we know about like boosted board and one wheel. You don't get any of that, and so that's why it felt very surface level interesting, very San Francisco thing. But the store was packed.
Oh, I'm sure it was packed.
People just walking in, checking things out, taking photos of things.
Did you feel like they will cycle products fairly regularly?
I don't know about the frequency of that, and I don't know how
That's
people
what would make
get
it
products
interesting
in there.
to me.
there's a lot of locations.
Yeah, I'm so super surprised. But basically every category, like of things that we talk about that become essentially vaporware or just novel pieces of technology, like a footnote in tech blogging history, like this was a place to experience that stuff.
They should carry Game Frame.
You should get in touch.
Yeah, I will.
I think you sell a couple units there. It seems like a perfect place for it.
It doesn't sound like it. Sounds like people could try it and then leave.
Well, that's true. Yeah. All right, on to some AI and some digital assistant news. So we talked about Google Assistant last week and Siri, and apparently both Alexa and Siri have backdoor commands.
Dude, this is freaky. They don't just have backdoor commands. They've been hacked.
How have they been hacked?
Well, they were hacked last year with these subliminal messages, which were sent using frequencies that you can't hear, but your dog probably can. And they could command them to perform whatever functions you can command over voice. So, hey Google, okay Google, hey Siri, that kind of thing. Whatever you can say to a computer, they could make the device do wirelessly, but they had to be really close. Then, earlier this year, they were able to do that from 25 feet away, subliminally. But now, more recently, they have been able to encode these messages into white noise or actual songs or spoken text that you can't even hear the command in.
What if Yanny and Laurel is a giant audio attack?
Exactly.
Happening worldwide right now.
So that's the fear. Is like if you were do like a Joker type thing where
you broadcast this low frequency command, but it only can activate things that you yourself could do on these devices.
That's true. But those things include turning on airplane mode, or sending messages, making phone calls.
Making phone calls. So it could be used for a coordinated denial of service attack or something.
Yeah.
The thing that this pokes at I mean, obviously there's a security issue. One of the things I've always been slightly uncomfortable with, and I like basically never use any ordering functions with any of my Amazon devices that can hear me, is that there's no verification.
What do you mean?
Like, I place an order, it's just done. Like, order me some toilet paper, it just happens. I don't have to...
With Amazon Echo?
Yeah, I don't have to confirm it some way. And so I'd love, like...
Isn't that an option? But I don't want that.
From a user experience standpoint, you don't want that.
Yeah.
But don't you
don't
want
have to
to
click
factor
OK.
in somewhere? Like, there has to be some authenticity.
Are you sure you want to buy is a thing that Amazon never wants to have to show you?
Of course not. That goes anti to their business model.
I think the answer is voice recognition. So it knows it's me. And it's not someone who sounds a little bit like me. And they're not there yet, but they're trying.
Or your secret password.
I don't want that. I don't want that.
Stating passwords out loud sounds like not a lot of fun.
They should know it.
Capital 3
No. It's Star Trek, right? It's your command authorization. You know, it's Jean-Luc Picard, AlphaGo, whatever.
So let me find this sentence. This was amazing. So they recorded somebody saying, "Oh shoot, where's the quote?" First of all, one of the papers that was written on this was called what was it? Cocaine Noodle. Because that's what Google hears as "Okay Google."
Cocaine Noodle.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny.
Okay Google.
Yeah.
Cocaine Noodle.
Yeah.
All right, that's the name of this week's episode. Cocaine Noodle.
Oh, no.
So here we go. They were able to hide the command, quote, and I apologize to everyone using Google products, but the command was "OK company, browse to evil.com." Okay, that was the command that was embedded in somebody saying the phrase, "Without the data set, the article is useless." So there was a recording of somebody saying that sentence, but
Without
it
the
made
data set.
devices go to evil.com.
How did that happen?
Exactly. That's it. Isn't
That's
that
an
amazing?
anomaly.
No. That is a hacking.
A coded thing.
That is interesting hacking.
It's like Google search results, except for voice.
Yeah.
And hacking those.
Does anyone else want to check out evil.com now?
No, don't do it. Don't do it.
All right.
Don't do it. Yeah, last week we talked about Google Duplex. A lot of feedback on the podcast comments about this. People think it's a great idea, not taking the point that I made, that it makes much more sense if Google is going to build a system to make it easier for people to do things, support the businesses who don't have those systems, and as opposed to the users who are buying these $100 devices.
What?
I mean,
Help the businesses build in the back ends to make appointments, as opposed to help the users make the appointments by faking being human.
But the whole point of this is it uses existing infrastructure, and in order to help the businesses, you'd have to beef up their IT.
If they just want, well, it's just phone calls, right? Business can set up Google Voice. Set up Google Voice number as your phone call and have it take appointments. It's the same AI.
I still think you're asking a lot on the business end of the equation that they're not incentivized to do.
My wife is actually a reservationist for a restaurant. She would be happy to answer all of your questions about what is a good or bad thing.
I would like to chat with her about that. Well, Google did come out and say that their duplex voice technology will be transparent, and they will telegraph that you are talking to a machine while you're in that conversation.
Now, is this a response to the discussion and outcry, or is this always their plan?
Who knows?
I don't know. I want to think it's a response to the discussion and outcry, because that was the main criticism coming out of it.
That, and we didn't even touch on this directly, but it is a fascinating point that part of this service, part of Google's service, is they intentionally fool humans. That's part of its operation.
I mean,
and that is
Right.
that is a problem.
Right. If you're making it, so the only way they can get around saying that this wasn't planned all along, or this was planned all along, was that their argument is conversationally, even though a person may know they're talking to a robot, as long as the robot sounds more like a human, it makes that engagement, that encounter more smooth or comfortable.
Right. You don't have to go through the explanation and onboarding.
But the moment I know it's a robot, the way you converse changes.
Well, yes. I'm not sure that works for everybody. So I think that's where Google's coming from is lowest common denominator. How do we solve this problem? We have to pretend to be human. But now it will disclose that it's a robot.
I do think that disclosure is necessary. The one thing a commenter pointed out was with the example of the person at the restaurant that English was clearly not their first language. Why didn't the AI switch to
A different language. Yeah.
So there's a way that I think the intentional tricking also hides some of the abilities that it probably has.
Like hides limitations of abilities?
Well, no. I mean, if you know you're talking to a robot, like, wouldn't you just converse in a language that you're most comfortable with?
That's really cool, actually.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's smart. So I do think somehow there are some benefits from taking away this artifice of I'm talking to another human.
Yeah. There's going to be a weird process, a weird phase where people aren't used to it and they don't know what to do.
Sure.
But we'll get past it.
That's true with a lot of these technologies. But we got past the idea of devices that listen to us in the home pretty quickly. So I'm hoping that this won't be as deep of a valley.
All right, couple bits of phone news. Last week, as we're recording the podcast, we got a big news bomb drop that phone maker ZTE was ceasing all operations. And if you follow any bit of the political news, you'll know why. Because they're banned from importing parts made in the United States that they need to make their phones, such as processors. From companies like Qualcomm, and that's incredible. That's a big deal. This is not a small company. They didn't have a giant foothold in the U.S., but they had a lot of money. They're a major phone company in Asia and in China.
And they were importing goods from the U.S.?
Yeah. Well, they're importing technology from U.S. companies. So whether or not those goods were made in the U.S., but from companies that were based in the U.S., they were then banned from importing those technologies, which they needed to make in their smartphones, so they had ceased all operations like that. Yeah,
I didn't
pretty big
realize
deal.
Qualcomm was a U.S. company.
Yeah, based down in San Diego. The politics of this is really complicated because it might involve like North Korea and all sorts of other elements there. At the end of the day, what do you hope from? What is the resolution that you want out of this? Because ZTE, I actually think, was putting pressure on the Android market in a good way. So I kind of don't want to see them go out of business from that perspective, because with the tendency towards like higher and higher end phones and the price of phones going up, and Apple trying to constantly raise the goalposts, move the goalposts on what upper end looks like, having a low cost manufacturer, I feel like, is very important to the Android ecosystem.
Yeah, or at least manufacturer that manufactures in both the high end and low end.
Exactly.
You know, in those segments. And we still have those companies like OnePlus just announced their phone, the OnePlus 6, and this one looks to be at least aesthetically, a big change from their past phones. You got your curved corners, you got your notch, you got your almost edge screen, and this phone is only it's only $530,
which is up $30 from their previous flagship phone. So even OnePlus on the lower end of the market is still slowly raising prices.
Yeah. Not exactly sure what version of Android it's going to run.
It's a custom version of Android. Like, they take Android stock and reskin it. And I think that's one of my big complaints with the OnePlus phones in the past, is you don't get the updates to the OS on the same delivery schedule as the Google branded phones or other Android phones.
But Android just released the beta for OnePlus.
Yeah, which I was surprised to
Hopefully going
hear
forward.
about, given that. But just because they've released it to OnePlus doesn't mean that all the customers are able to opt in.
Oh,
Well,
really?
Yeah, because OnePlus has to enable the delivery OTA.
Oh.
I remember the first OnePlus shipped with Cyanogen mod, which was very popular, but that's no longer a thing.
Yeah, I'm most curious what the camera is going to be like, because that's been the other feature of the phone that has been disappointing in the past. So if they can resolve, like, if the OS is a little bit better and if the camera's a little bit better, I think that'll make up a pretty big difference because the other flagship phones are nearly double the price.
Any other bits of technology news? We actually
we have a lot.
Things. Yeah. If you're a watch person, there's a blog and also a regular publication, Hodinkee, and the editors there have done some great interviews with people in tech, Tony Fadell and now most recently Johnny Ive and
Sir Johnny Ive to you.
Yeah, I guess so. Their editor went to the new Apple headquarters in January and had this extensive conversation about Apple product design, specifically the Apple Watch. It's a really long read, and I highly recommend you read it if you're interested in Apple design philosophy and how they came about the watch design.
Speaking of Apple, we should mention, and this will be a quick hitter, that on a recent Tim Cook announcement, he said Apple Music has hit 50 million subscribers, which is still short of where Spotify is with 75 million subscribers, but they are growing slowly.
That's a lot.
Dude, that is
Spotify
a lot.
had such an advantage, a first mover advantage. Spotify killed RDO and essentially has regulated Pandora to a non-issue for them, non-competitor. For Apple to be at 2/3 that subscriber base just with the acquisition of Beats and introduction of their service.
This counts people that are doing the free trial.
Ah, boo!
So
Not real
we don't
users.
know. We don't know how much the 50 is real, but it does show growth in that market, and I'm curious what Apple's going to do with that. If they're going to invest in this and really try to catch up with Spotify.
How about make iTunes better?
No.
But Apple Music is not iTunes.
It's true. They basically don't care about iTunes. They don't care about people who have music on their computers. They care about you paying a regular subscription fee to have music streamed.
In case you're wondering how many iPhone users there are, according to Google, which is actually according to Statista.com, there are 222 million smartphone users in the U.S. in 2017, and Apple looks to hold a considerable market share with over 90 million. Actually, that's just of 2 years ago. So actually, 50 million is a pretty large market share.
And this 50 million is not just U.S., though. It's international.
Okay.
And so that number is a lot bigger.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty small slice of the pie.
See, it felt small when you said 50 million to me. I feel like it's not.
50 million's a lot.
What is it, like $10 a month for Apple Music, and you get all the music? That's crazy. I mean, why wouldn't everybody just buy that?
I think people listen to music differently these days.
Isn't it because they don't have to buy it?
I think it's what you guys...
I think a lot of people listen to music on YouTube.
Yeah.
And
I think it's also how many of the add-on services for media are you going to have in your life? Like for some people, I bet you they're making a choice between HBO versus a service like this.
I don't know. I just go back to having my collection of CDs, and that would grow and grow and grow over the years, and it's so much more convenient to have this, but it's also, I mean, it certainly comes at a price, and I don't mean the $10. I mean, it devalues the music because it's basically free. I don't know.
Something interesting posted on Facebook this week by John Carmack, CTO of Oculus.
Yeah.
This is a retrospective story, very nostalgic.
He's gone from plan files to Facebook.
Well, I think he stopped his plan files a long
Major
time
upgrade.
ago. Yeah. He posts on Facebook all the time, and he did a story about his last few meetings with Steve Jobs.
Well, he posted on Twitter a couple weeks ago that something about Steve Jobs came up, and he said, that reminds me, I need to write down my Steve Jobs stories. Got a ton of likes, ton of yes, pleases.
Yeah.
And so he did. And
People never associate those two together. You know,
well,
Steve,
except that John Carmack was like the man figure on the big screen behind Steve Jobs at one of the events. Wasn't
the
he?
Bill Gates?
Or no, maybe that was just Bill Gates. I was imagining John Carmack was doing that, but he did demo Quake 3.
He did. In
Or-
1998, I want to say.
Yeah.
1998 or 1999.
Quake 3. Right?
The Q3 test, because that was one of the things that was on multiple platforms.
Yeah, so he demoed that on Mac first, and he came out, and that was a surprise because no one plays high-end games on the Macintosh.
Mm-hmm. Well, gamers associate John Carmack with PCs and with Wintel.
Yeah,
but forget that he did a lot of work building up Mac as well, gaming on Mac.
Well, he loved Next. because apparently that they were great to work on inside the corporate office. And isn't that part of the story that I
He
read that
wanted to
here?
put on was it on Doom? Brought to you by Next.
Yeah, like developed on Next.
And that was a no-go.
It was
and
Next
then,
by Apple, and then
and
eventually,
then after the success of the game, they wanted to put that on there, and it was too late for that.
so it's an interesting story of John Carmack's experiences with Steve Jobs in and around various events. He doesn't consider himself in Steve's circle, but at the same time, he did have very direct phone calls with him. He got like the Sunday afternoon phone call out of the blue, and certainly Steve Jobs respected John Carmack.
In my mind, because never having an direct interaction with Steve Jobs, so much of his persona is sculpted by, in the retrospectives and also in things like the Steve Jobs film that Danny Boyle did.
Yeah.
And all I see is John Carmack as one of those engineers in that film, in that pre-keynote moment, having at it with Steve Jobs, or the post-keynote moment, having at it with Steve Jobs about native apps on iPhone or something.
Yeah, it's a good read.
Yeah. Who here used Pocket Cast?
I use Pocket Cast. I've been a loyal user for a long time.
What is it?
It's a podcast app that manages all of your podcasts on your phone. It usually you can stream or manage them locally. I prefer locally. You can change the speeds. It's very popular. And in a strange story, or strange from my perspective, Pocket Cast has agreed to partner with NPR and This American Life in something that's sort of like somewhere in between an acquisition and a strategic partnership. We don't know what. There's a long blog post from the founders about this. They don't indicate exactly what's going to come of it. Like, they're not going to turn into the NPR app. They're still going to host other podcasts, but they said like this partnership's going to allow them to grow significantly and add in new features. I love Pocket Cast. It's the best podcast app.
You may know it as Cast.
Yeah.
It's how it shows up on your phone in the icon, but it is, I think, by far the best podcast app.
Cool.
But it's a
Third-party
weird
podcast
thing
app.
that like a podcast producer has merged with a podcast distribution app. By the way, podcasts, good week for podcasts.
Hey.
Supreme Court ruling struck down basically a patent troll who's he sued Adam Carolla and some other people because he said he had a patent on audio files distributed in the way that podcasts are.
Adam Carolla is the podfather.
Really?
Yeah.
So this is a massive victory. The EFF was fighting this for a long time, and to have it ruled upon this way in the Supreme Court, it's sort of like, finally, this issue's over. No one owns podcasts or the idea of transferring audio in this way.
All right. Continue making podcasts. Now you can also bet on sports.
Wait,
Thanks, Supreme Court.
Was Adam Carolla the old MTV VJ? Or is he the guy with Dr. Drew?
Dr. Drew.
Oh, he's not the podfather.
Who's this podfather that you're talking about?
One of the old VJs. They have been podcasting forever, and I think
you're talking about Mark Curry.
Yes, Mark Curry invented the term podcasting. I think.
Really?
I think so.
How bizarre.
Last few bites of technology news. Cliffy B's Boss Key Productions, which made Lawbreakers a couple years ago, and most certainly
A couple years ago.
was it 2 years ago?
What I thought. That's what's crazy is that they called that game a failure in January, and I
Yeah.
felt like it just came out.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then their new game, Radical Heights, which was their like PUBG style game, I guess it was not enough of a success, and so he has shut down his company.
So sad.
Yeah.
A lot of talent there.
I mean, there was a little bit of controversy when he was saying that Epic was taking away his developers, and obviously it's tough to be an independent studio, and his name alone wasn't enough to carry it. It's competitive out there.
Well, now they're definitely taking away his developers.
Yeah. And then also a little bit of hardware news. Nintendo announced a device that they should have released when the Switch came out. It is a $20 charging stand.
Wait a minute. Is it something I can print on Thingiverse?
No. I don't think so. So the Switch has a built-in kickstand, but when you use the kickstand, you can't also use the kickstand and charge the Switch at the same time because the port is on the bottom. And this is a stand that has a USB-C port on the bottom, and it's basically an adapter, USB-C.
It's a right angle adapter.
Right angle adapter, exactly.
There you go.
With the stand built in. $20. Looks like it's going to work just fine.
Brilliant.
Yes, I guess you could 3D print something that
There are several
suffices for
stands that just bend the cable.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
It's a pretty rigid cable. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not as pretty as this.
Yeah. We're not going to jump into the shower, but let's get an Elon Musk boring
You don't
company
like the
update.
shower? Does it mess with your ears? It's
It
too
does
high
a little
pitched.
bit, yeah.
He posted a video on Instagram of what he's saying is a almost complete tunnel below LA.
Well, it is complete. They're just waiting on approvals.
Yeah, so that's what he means by almost.
Yeah.
Is that they're waiting for a couple of approvals.
I
But
mean, this is amazing. I mean, I
and
feel
he
like
shows
it's-
like a fly through.
just yesterday he was talking about maybe this would be a cool idea, and here we are. And he's going to offer free rides to the public, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. He's and elected officials and some other policy folks. Would you go down into a tunnel with Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Shut up.
That feels like the beginning of like a
Bond
game.
film.
Yeah.
Or yeah, like the opening sequence of Half-Life 3. Yeah, going down the tunnel.
Norm, I know you've already ordered your Model 3, but
You know what?
What?
Someone may have jumped the gun. I'm not going to call any names here because I know there are podcast listeners out there who may work at Tesla, but I may not be getting it as soon as I thought.
Okay. Well, maybe there's time to change your order because as of next week, you will be able to order the all-wheel drive Model 3 as well as the Power Edition.
Thank you, Ryan McCaffrey, for putting that question up.
Yeah,
Friend of the podcast.
Under the Boring Company thread.
Yeah, well,
he just threw it
I
out
think
there, but he got an answer from
that-
Mr. Musk.
If you run I don't know what size, but if you run a large Tesla fan podcast and are waiting for your Model 3, Elon must like you. If you're an acolyte of Tesla,
Yeah.
Elon's going to respond to you.
Well, Ryan is also persistent.
He is. This is Ryan McCaffrey of IGN, who runs a Tesla podcast, and he asks Elon a lot of questions on Twitter, and they get a lot of retweets, and so Elon chose to give him some answers this time.
That's right. So there you go. All-wheel drive performance. Is it for you?
No,
It's not.
I don't want to pay the extra money.
Well,
You're
okay.
already in pretty deep.
If you're gonna drive
It's an expensive car.
if you're gonna go skiing, you're gonna want that all-wheel drive.
I'm okay.
All right, I'm just saying. And you can order white.
Interior.
Yep, as of next year.
Yeah,
Next month.
That's
No,
going to
you
get
know,
dirty like
no,
that.
I have a dog.
All right.
I will say, why is Elon reading his Twitter mentions? I'm a little concerned about that he's up in his mentions. He seems like the kind of person that probably shouldn't be
You know,
reading.
you
I think he cares
that-
what the world thinks.
All right.
Yeah, he's got some free time.
It's what he engages. I don't think he has any free time, but I think he likes engaging.
Everyone
with-
has to
with
use the
public.
bathroom.
I guess that's the appropriate time for Twitter mentions. Before we move on to our next segment, I want to thank the other sponsor of this week's episode, and that's Udemy. This Only Test is brought to you by Udemy, the largest marketplace for online learning. Whether you want to learn something new or just sharpen your skills, Udemy has an extensive library of over 65,000 courses taught by expert instructors. While other online learning companies charge hundreds of dollars per class, Udemy courses start at just $11.99. From web development to digital marketing to Japanese cooking courses, Udemy has something for everyone. Plus, each course comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee for risk-free learning, and every day students around the world choose Udemy to discover new passions, expand their skills, and even change careers. You can improve your life through learning. Download the Udemy app to learn anytime, anywhere, or visit www.ude.my/test today. Again, that's www.ude.my/test. And thank them for sponsoring this week's episode.
I'm a pinball nerd. Pin. Just to my point. Finally, pinball. That makes me very happy. So I may have misinformed you. I'm actually going to the Golden State Pinball Festival before Maker Faire. They're running concurrently. They always run together.
What? You going
Same
this weekend?
It's very difficult for people like me who want to go to both. They're on the same weekend.
It's also Beta Breakers.
Now it used to be Pinagogo. That used to be what it's called. But now Pinagogo has split off. The people who invented the name Pinagogo in Dixon, California. They're keeping that show. Who knows what it's going to be? But this show is now called the Golden State Pinball Festival. So if you're in Northern California and you want to play some pinball and you want to be around some good people this weekend in Lodi, California, you ever been?
Yep.
It's probably 90 minutes to 2 hours east of San Francisco, not west. And so I'll be there this Friday night and all day Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that. It'll be fun. It's a good
Are you
place.
taking any games?
No, I don't do that. That's too much work. But that's a good time if you want to play some pinball and maybe play in a little tournament. They have a pin golf tournament.
Pin golf?
Yeah, which is interesting. So they give you a series of games that are all holes, and they give you things to accomplish. One thing to accomplish in that game. And the number of balls it takes you to accomplish that goal is the number of strokes.
Oh, that's cool.
it's not
Where
about
something's like get in a certain hole, hit a certain score, or activate a certain mini game.
Lock 3 balls, that kind of thing. It's a
Wow.
much more friendly tournament.
Yeah.
There's also a kids tournament, and it's a good time had by all. Unfortunately, I have some bad news. If you remember, there's an iPad app. It's actually on everything. It's probably on the. Maybe it's not on the Switch. No, it did just launch on the Switch, but it's on PC. It's everything. It's called Pinball Arcade. If you're familiar with it, it's all the old games that you can play from Williams and Bally, and a few from Stern, a few from Gottlieb. And, I mean, there's like 70 games. And they've done Kickstarters for some of the more license-heavy things like Star Trek Next Generation and Doctor Who.
Now, these are flat 2D representations? Or
Well,
are they...
they're 3D, but they're, they're played on 2D. Right, they're traditional 2D games. They have never released it for the Rift.
There's no looking around left and right of it.
No. You're standing at a table and you're playing these old games. But it's a way to play some of these old games. A lot of people don't have access to them. They don't have a pinball arcade and they want to play them. But so many of these games are on there. They have lost the Williams Bally license. So at the end of next month, June 30th, all of those games will be off of their in-game store. If you've bought them already, they're going to continue to support them, and they say they will be bringing them to their newer platforms. They'll be taking care of you for the next foreseeable future, possibly for years. But you got to buy them now if you want to play those games in the future. Unfortunately, they lost the license. The license holder did not want to renew. They wanted to renew, but the people who make the pinball game wanted to renew, but they couldn't. So that's a little bit of sad news. On the plus side, though, there are new pinball games that have been released for the Rift and the Go. New Pinball FX2 VR games. You can now play E.T., Jaws, Back to the Future. None of those are real-world game representations. They are all made from scratch for the game. But you can play them on the Go,
Do they
play
break
them on the Rift.
the physics rules of any pinball games?
No, the Pinball FX guys, they tend to be more or less real-worldy. They tend to make games that could potentially be made with the right technology and unlimited budgets. The question is, do you buy on the Rift or the Go? Because they don't cross-platform. One purchase does not go on all.
Some developers, if you reach out to them, they will unlock your game, like for Catan. If you bought the desktop version, they'll unlock it on Go. You just got to reach out.
I don't think that they'll do this. I don't think they'll do that for you. And so you got the resolution bump on the Go.
What device are you going to play more on?
I know, that's good. That's probably a proper question.
I think Go, you probably you sit on the couch, easy to play.
It's a
Have
trade-off.
The gamepad, use bumpers.
Resolution or sixed off. Now, I know you think pinball, who needs the sixed off, but it's part of what makes playing pinball in VR actually more like the real thing, because you can bob and weave and read the ball and get a better feel for it. But that resolution bump is also great. So I don't know. I'm kind of torn. I don't know which one to buy. Maybe I'll get both. And someone built a Lego pinball machine. Tell me about it.
It's entirely made of Legos.
Can you play it?
15,000
playable.
bricks. Totally playable.
It's not as big as a full-size pinball machine. It's more like a tabletop pinball machine. And it's space-themed.
Yeah, it's
nice.
based
Has toys.
on our friend Benny from the Lego movie.
Bree Burns is the name of the builder.
It's Lego space themed.
Lego Space.
That's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a video of it in operation, and you can check it out. Search Benny Spaceship Adventure Lego pinball machine.
What I didn't know is that they sourced LEDs from Lego. I didn't realize Lego had Lego-specific LEDs.
No.
In bricks.
No.
Yeah, inside of bricks.
Where do the batteries go?
They have the 9-volt battery, like the Lego power supplies, that I think power like the Mindstorms, like all of those.
Okay,
things.
but how do the wires get to the bricks?
I don't know.
That's cool.
They're cool. The bumpers, because they're not solenoids. It's rubber bands.
Okay.
It's all rubber bands.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yep. And they're Lego Mindstorm steel caster balls. So everything is Lego.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
I want to see.
Oh!
I want to see this at a show.
Now it's time for a moment of science.
All right, we do not talk enough about sea snails on the show. So we're correcting this issue. A lot of neuroscientists actually study a certain type of snail. It's a sea snail. It's closer to like a slug than what we'd think of as a snail because it has a simplified nervous system. It only has about 20,000 neurons acting in its sort of brain. And these researchers did something interesting. They basically created a stimulus that would kind of like, let's say, shock the snails. And they would do it over an extended period of time. These snails would learn and essentially would have like a reaction to the shock. And that reaction would elongate as they learned the shock was coming. So a typical snail which never got the shock would basically retract for like a second before going back to its normal sort of position. Ones that have been receiving the shock over time would retract for 50 seconds. You could say this is a form of learning, or as the neuroscientists put it, this is a form of long-term memory that the snails were developing, which is unusual. We didn't for a long time think that creatures like snails, with their less complicated nervous system, would have the ability to form memories. So our understanding of memories is that they form at the synapses, like the junction between neurons. Well, what this team did was after they shocked those snails for a long time, they actually extracted some RNA from the snails and embedded them into new snails that had never received the shock before. And that RNA was coding some particular protein that was doing something within the neurons. Well, those snails that got implanted with the RNA, when they got a shock, they would retract for the full 50 seconds. Or it was like more like 40 seconds. So almost as long as the original snails. The way this has been communicated is they essentially took a memory out of the old snail and implanted it in a new snail, which is not something we think is possible. So this is real weird, right? Because
how is that confirmed?
well, because why would the snail retract for 40 seconds all of a sudden upon implanting the RNA versus the 1 second under a control condition? They've learned something.
Are we drawing a distinction between instinct and memory?
Yes, because they would do this multiple times. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just like, oh, we do it once and they would retract and just have this behavior. They would receive many, many shocks in this situation. So I think what the interesting analysis here isn't that the RNA is coding a memory. That's probably not what's happening here. But what it might be doing is it might be coding some sort of protein that is going inside of neurons, and that nucleus of a neuron is actually coding the memory, which upends a little bit of how we understand human memory works, or at least it's not sort of the well-accepted theory. Now, we can have like debates on whether like a snail is going to have the same sort of long-term memory formation as we do. But there is evidence from past studies that there are similarities. This is crazy. This is one of the craziest things I've read in a long time.
Would it work on humans?
No, I mean, at this point, this is way too simplified of a system. This is only a 20,000 neuron system versus, the billion plus that we have in our own brain.
Mm.
And we have complicated ways that memories form. But this is really crazy to me.
That is crazy.
All right. Totally different kind of story. There's something that climate change scientists study, which is called pan-evaporation, because the way water evaporates is based on 4 basic factors. One is air temperature. That makes sense. Humidity levels. That makes sense. The amount of solar radiation. You can imagine that makes sense.
Yep.
And then wind speed, because of essentially convection. All of that makes sense. So this one scientist, like a decade ago, was studying pan-evaporation rates and found that it was declining significantly in Australia. Didn't know why. Then he started replicating the experiments based off of interactions across the world. And he's finding this evaporation rate was going down everywhere. So what's happening? He investigated those 4 conditions. And the one that is turned up as the one that's causing the decline, according to him, is that the wind is slowing down. Wind on Earth is slowing down.
That's not good.
And not by a little bit. The estimates based off of his research is that it's up to 25%.
Since when?
Since going back, I mean, his research only goes back about the last 16 years.
Wait, it's slowed down 25% in 16 years?
Mm-hmm.
Huh, it doesn't make any sense.
Wind as
Or no. I mean, it's over a 50-year period.
How do you average wind? Like, is
So
it certain
it's over-
locations, or is it?
He measured in multiple locations, like from Svalbard, which is in northern Norway, to Australia. And so the wind speed is different in all of those locations. So what I'm sharing is sort of like an average.
Is there
of
an
sorts.
inverse correlation between global temperature and wind speed?
So this is where it gets interesting. Like, how do we explain this away? So one explanation, which is not very sexy, but might actually be true, is that increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has led to an increase in vegetation on the planet, which naturally slows down the wind because it's sort of blocking it. Not
blades
the
of grass. So
not-
many blades of grass.
Not the sexiest explanation, but it could be. The others get much more complicated. They involve like air current effects in the atmosphere related to rising temperatures, so that we're seeing surface wind speeds go down while wind speeds in other parts of the atmosphere go up. And so the answer from the researcher as it stands now is we don't know why he doesn't have an explanation of why it's slowing down.
I bet
Outside of the fact that it is slowing down.
there are kite flying clubs out there that are like, I've been telling you, man.
Less resistance.
I knew it.
Wind
or
isn't
just
what it was.
Putting your finger in
man.
the air, licking your finger, put in the air. 25%.
I'll link to some of the study stuff because this is one of the more unbelievable findings I've come across in a long time. So I thought that one was interesting. And the Norm has a story that he put in about a new color. And I read this. This is a really interesting
I heard
read.
about this came up like 20 years ago. There was a
So-
new primary color.
Inventing colors, like these are colors in the real world, right? These are not colors on a digital screen, which you can, depending on your display, you can obviously just manufacture whatever combination. But colors in the real world, pigments are, some of them not naturally forming, and you have to invent them. And there's a new shade of blue that just got unveiled from Oregon State University.
I mean, this sounds like a joke, but it's like big business.
And it's pronounced Yinmin.
It's yttrium, indium oxide, and manganese.
But a lot of it isn't. Like in reading the story, they show, of course, pictures of it. You can't understand what it is without seeing it in person. And they talk about how brilliant it is.
Yo, you're saying the computer screen can't represent it?
No, because it would look just like your Photoshop picking that shade of blue.
Yeah.
So it's really tough to understand the importance of this.
No, I mean, there's two reasons why it's important. One is that most colors involve blending in inorganic chemicals that are dangerous to our health, like lead, other things. So this has a mix, as it stands right now, that is non-toxic to humans,
But more,
which is pretty significant.
back to Norm's point, though, are you telling me that you can't create this hue with any combination of red, green, and blue?
Nope.
No.
It's blue, first of all, so you can't
Yeah.
create
Yeah.
that shade of
But
blue.
several shades of blue on my computer screen are combinations of the three colors.
But imagine to industry what it means to have a new shade of blue.
Well, the bigger story is that there are certain colors like in the world that are stable and safe, right? So one of the reasons we see a lot of certain colors appear either naturally or used in manufacturing is because those colors are easy to manufacture and can be
And are stable.
right? And that's one of the reasons we gravitate towards certain yellows or certain reds, especially like reds. I think the article talked about like Ferrari reds or Lego brick reds.
But Ferrari red's not a stable color.
So that's super interesting. That it's why that there are certain shades of certain colors that we don't see often because they're just they can't be used.
And Ferrari red in particular is vulnerable to solar radiation because of its chemical makeup. So people tend to put like UV protectant kind of coatings on the red, but they will still fade over time.
From the article, out of the oven came a blue so radiant, so fantastic, it appeared almost extraterrestrial.
What does that mean? I read that. I'm like,
Yeah, we have to see it. We have to see it.
It's like the deepest black.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is like Vanta Black all over again. Blue isn't a color that's part of nature in the way we think it is. Like we think of blue sky and blue ocean, but really, like vibrant blues don't really exist in nature, and that's why this is a monumental feat. And blue is like, this is a big business, like cosmetics. Like
Now the question also is, you know how they're like, you know, there are certain people who work in, have trained their noses to work in perfume factories to be able to detect the scents. How did they know when they pulled this out of the oven that this was something new? How do you train your eyes? Like, I've made 5,000 different shades of blue, and they were all old, and this one was the new one.
Oh man,
why are you hating on this? Like,
no, I'm just I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'm curious about how they verify this,
Yeah.
and how it is a discovery.
I think you guys are wrong about it can't be reproduced on the computer screen. I imagine that this is a hard to produce color in real life, but I don't believe that an HDR screen has to create most of the visual spectrum.
That's a good point, right? Like there are computer screens that can represent what they say, you know, trillions of colors, but it's only one aspect of the color. There's other aspects like the radiance,
yes,
right, that you don't get. And even when you move to a thing like HDR, it's only representing the colors that it can within the boundaries of that technology. Whereas in the real world, when you have actual photons bounce off pigment and hit your eyes, there are properties of those that are not possible to replicate on a computer screen.
Okay.
On a screen at all.
Right. Well, how do we see it?
I know.
Come on.
You gotta wait for him to license the patent out to some company.
We need closure on this.
Yeah. It can be the fancy new ink for HP. Buy that cartridge.
That would do it.
Yeah. Is that it for science?
That's it for science.
All right. Let's go to VR.
The VR Minute. Virtual reality this week.
Not too much VR news this week. In terms of software, we have an announcement to Bridge Crew DLC, and this is super exciting. It's gonna be on PS VR first, and then make its way to other platforms. But it's gonna be set in next generation time frame.
Engage.
That was card maneuver.
Voice commands then, or am I still gonna have to press buttons?
I think you're still gonna have to press buttons.
Actually, they've revamped that one of the offices. Did you see that? Shoot, you don't know about this? Yeah. So what was the boring one? No one wanted to be. Was it like tactical? No, that was fun.
No, tactical was fun.
Engineering?
Yeah, the person that had to repair stuff. So I think that was engineering.
Well, now it's like a mini game is completely redone, and you manage personnel throughout the entire ship.
Okay.
Oh.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, there are a lot of aspects of Bridge Crew that were, I believe, to be influenced by a lot of the Starfleet Command space naval combat games of the 90s in terms of the micromanagement. And the developers of this at Ubisoft, they must be aware of the success of things like Sea of Thieves, which has a lot of Bridge Crew elements, except that one is multiplayer, but not
that?
VR. No, but I've talked to a bunch of people who are really into it. Yeah. And then we would love for something like Bridge Crew, which already has that social multiplayer aspect, to go even beyond that and be, not massively multiplayer necessarily, but at least, multiple ships occupying some area of space, encountering each other, and maybe going into battle. Or maybe co-op.
I don't know. Sign me up. So you'll be able to fight the Borg.
Yeah.
For one thing. That'll be like the major mission, and apparently it's very difficult.
Yeah, as it should be.
Because it's the Borg. I don't think you're supposed to be able to win.
I think you can, but
unless you're Picard.
When you win, your ship is almost dead. So it's difficult. You might even say it's futile.
Do you have to do one of those like sleep, Norm, sleep?
What about don't they also have some more replayability in their DLC with randomly generated missions?
Great.
Yeah, ongoing voyages, randomly generated Starship mission generator. And they have 2 new ones, Resistance and Patrol, with new voice work and unique mission mechanics.
Oh, and you can now be various things. I think you can you can't be Borg, but you can be new races.
As
your own avatar.
Makes a lot of sense for Star Trek. Excited for that.
You can be Android.
Oh, of course. Makes a lot of sense.
Females, though, also.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jungian
Mhm.
class.
Mhm.
Budget cuts, which is supposed to come out, I think this week or next, delayed a little bit. It's now coming out on May 31st. We've waited so long for it already.
That's
Not
not
a couple
that big.
weeks. Not that bad. So we'll be excited for that.
Definitely.
And also, SVVR is going to have some presence at Maker Faire this weekend with some setups. They're showing off some hardware demos and some software demos.
Cool.
So I'll go
Well,
check
that's
out
great.
their booth.
I was just in Walnut Creek, California, and they have a location-based VR business. It's not like the Void. It's
Mhm.
not a thing where you walk in and it's custom stuff. It looks to me like they have bought a bunch of VR equipment and then installed it, and they allow you to get memberships,
Okay.
and you come in and use it. I guess that you can have parties there,
Huh.
but it's standard like
Off-the-shelf components.
it's off-the-shelf components and it's off-the-shelf software, and they're set up in stations from what I can tell.
This
Interesting.
is like how VR World in New York operated.
What's that?
And that's a place I went to that was that a very similar
In
model.
Manhattan?
Yeah, it was in Manhattan. They had like a one day you can come in and play as much as you want to a longer term membership.
I wonder if it's a business model. Like, does it work?
When I was there, what seemed to work about it was parents bringing in kids for like a birthday party.
Mm-hmm.
But there weren't many people there just doing the thing on their own. There was only like a couple other people there otherwise. What I thought was interesting is that they had the face sanitizing shields. Like everyone had to wear.
You gotta wear those
mask,
gaskets,
Yeah.
of course.
The gaskets. And I was wondering how businesses were going to deal with that.
Right. Yeah, well, I guess it's a good way to try before you buy, and also a good place to have your party. As long as there's really interesting things you can all do together in the party. Like, what are you going to do? Rec room? What are you gonna? I guess you could do that, and you could play laser tag that
It
way.
was less about joint play, it seemed like, by observing the kid's birthday party. But I thought the critical thing is that the New York one that I saw had a lot of people working at it to help like guide people getting into the games quicker.
That's good.
Because otherwise I think people would get frustrated.
Yeah.
There's a Kickstarter going on right now from a Chinese company called Ants VR, and they have a AR headset that just made over $50,000 in its fundraising goal called the Mix AR headset. Now, this is interesting. It's not a traditional AR headset. This is a tethered device, tethered to your PC, and their idea is that they're taking Steam games that have dark backgrounds and just swapping out the dark backgrounds to a transparency layer so that you will be able to play those games in your real-world environment for more comfort.
We saw that. We saw one of the AR companies do that.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced it's a good idea.
Hmm.
But I'm willing to try it.
I'm totally willing to try it. I'm not sure I'm going to back this, though. And then finally, other forward-looking thing, Valve has teased role of VR in their future with a short video that shows the history of their headsets, including what may be a prototype device.
What? Well, they show every VR headset prototype, followed by the Vive, I imagine, and then something beyond the Vive.
Yeah, this is a really short video with Valve employees wearing prototype headsets and spinning around.
Yeah.
So you see all around them. And then after they show the Vive, they have Gabe Newell wearing what looks like a Vive frame, except has this extra bit of attachment underneath it.
Yeah. And people are supposing maybe that's mouth tracking, facial tracking. But it also, like, that part that's over the mouth looks like the face of the Vive. It looks like that's where maybe the sensors are. So maybe they've just offloaded that and they're moving displays up top. And they're just using it for tracking, who knows. But in any case, the takeaway is Valve is still hard at work.
And doing a lot of experimentation with, obviously, their Knuckles controllers.
Yeah.
And some other motion tracking.
And they have just redone their website and said that they have more games in production than have been announced.
There's a quote that from PC Gamer that Gabe Newell said that they've always been jealous of companies like Nintendo because they can make new games and they know what they design their controllers and their games to be made for each other, the software and the hardware experiences. So if that's something that they may be taking advantage of in the near future, obviously they're designing their Knuckles controllers. Everyone's thought, well, what is their next big AAA game?
Yep.
Maybe it's going to be made for VR. Maybe it's going to really take advantage of CapSense. Also, Valve has acquired Campo Santo, the makers of Firewatch, and so their next game probably will be in the Valley of Gods, which is the Campo Santo adventure game.
That's one of the games they list as in development.
Oh, awesome. All right. I think that does it for VR and also for the podcast this week. Before we let you guys go, we want to let you know that there's a new episode of Foo that will just launch today. I think it's 20% off this week, and it is essentially a recording of Still Entitled with Adam and me in Foo. So we have our own Foo avatars, and we're going to talk about building props and costumes in a representation of Adam's workshop.
And aren't there some of Adam's props that you can handle
interact
and
with?
pick up?
Totally. Scans of those. So check that out. And we have an outro this week.
Sure. Here's another one from Justin, a.k.a. Speed.
Hi there, I didn't see you.
So you have a regular
Testing.
VR
This week.
What?
Jesus Christ.
Shit.
Yeah, we
Autoplays.
do,
Don't have to cue. You don't have to tell Will what to do. Norm.
No.
What was that?
That basically sounds like what it's like to watch Will on his nightly gaming stream on Twitch.
Yeah.
Shit, what was that?
We'll see you next week. Bye.